Hello there, I'm Scotty. You're not. And welcome back to Retro Rewind. And if you're not exactly sure what this one is, it just says changes. It was the three-part series finale of Animorphs. And when I say season finale, it was the final three parts of the show before it got canceled. Final three episodes put into one special. And they all do sort of connect. And they're all titled changes part 1, part 2, part 3. But to kind of just fill you in on what Animorphs is, I did a short-lived review on the series itself. So go back and check that out. I don't know how good that is, remember, but go check that out. But just a quick rundown. Animorphs is a TV series. It came out in 1998. It ran to 1999. Based on a book series of the same name, which I have some of the books right here. I'll show you. I have, this is number 13, the change, not to be confused with changes, but the change. Tobias there on the cover, and then we have number 14, the unknown, Cassie there, not in the best shape. We have number 15, the escape, Marco. Number 16, number 16, the warning, Jake. Number 17, the underground, with Rachel there. And then I have the Megamorphs in the Time of the Dinosaurs. I have another one that is Axe morphing into a bird, but I don't remember exactly. I don't know where it is. These four I got from the book order. These four came together, and then I got this one separate, and the other one, of course, and then this one. So I was into these books and Goosebumps, but Animorphs was my thing for a while. Read these books. I used to read books before TV became my whole thing, and I watched TV a lot. But yeah, and the basic premise is that these aliens called Yeerks have come to Earth. The little slugs that go in your ear take over your brain, and an Andalite, that's a big alien, it's sort of like a centaur type creature, and it came to Earth and has given 5 teenagers the ability to morph into animals to try to save Earth from being infested by the Yeerks. So, yeah. Leader of this invasion, on Earth at least, is Visser 3, who was played by one actor, and then he's different. Only thing you need to know is going into this finale, the season 1 finale featured Visser 3 losing his form as Victor Trent, and so he had to come up with a new one, and that kind of a new, because he has an Andalite body, and I don't know if they ever say what Andalite is, but Andalite body that he can choose to transform into anyone, and so he had the form of Victor Trent, but now that form is gone because people saw that person die, so he has to be someone else. And so, yeah. Our main characters are Jake, his cousin Rachel, their friends Cassie and Marco, and then Tobias, who becomes their friend after learning to morph. And then Axe, who is another Andalite who landed on Earth and touched all of them and somehow came up with the form of Paulo Costanzo. I don't know. We got Sean Ashmore as Jake, Brooke Nevin as Rachel, Boris Cabrera as Marco, Nadia, sorry if I mispronounced your name, I butchered this name, Nadia Neshmanendo as Cassie. She's, what's her name? The So Weird episode with the song. Forget her name, but... And Christopher Ralph plays Tobias, and of course Paulo Costanzo. as Tobias. So yeah, and by this point in the series, it's gotten to the point like in the change. I think this is in the change where he. So the whole thing with Tobias, I kind of was playing something. Tobias, okay, so when you morph into an animal, you get 2 hours. If you go past that, you're stuck as an animal. Tobias got stuck somewhere and turned into a hawk permanently. And then one episode, the Elementinus, whatever his name is, Elementus, something like that, allowed him to go back in time, and at least in the book, this is what it was, back in time. But then something in the movie, in the TV show, where he goes back and is able to touch the human version of himself or something and be able to turn back into his human form so he can hang out with his friends. But again, he's got 2 hours. So if he stays human for more than 2 hours, he can't morph again. So, yeah, so he's a hawk morphing into human. Scotty, back in 1999 when he first saw this, didn't know that. And so I remember being very confused watching this. So they advertised this as a TV movie back in the day. Snick was on hiatus from doing TV shows. They were rearranging their schedule, so they had the Snick Flicks, which is where they aired stuff like this, and eventually King Hell, Two Heads Are Better Than None, and Tale of the Silver Sight from Are You Afraid of the Dark. And even I think they re-aired Farewell My Little Viking, and they had a music video at the end. Hold on. Thing in my teeth. But yeah. And this was in the early 2000s. In the year 2000, I think they were doing this. At least because some of these videos like Oops, I Did It Again, and It's Gonna Be Me by NSYNC, that was 2000. So yeah. So that was re-airing those, basically. But I didn't know that Animorphs movie existed, or TV movie, whatever. There's 3 episodes of the show. So it counts as a retro rewind. So yeah, so I think I've gotten us to the point where we can talk about this now. So the episode starts with Jake and Marco in morph of a dog for Jake, Homer, his dog, and a duck for Marco, and they're sneaking into this museum to get this piece of technology they believe is Andalite, alien Andalite. Andalites are the good guys, by the way. Andalite technology, and they sneak in and take a picture, and Jake has Marco pick it up, and of course the alarm goes off. They're lucky there's no cameras in there, back then. But yeah, and they get the pictures and they run out, and this guard, who you've probably seen before in other things, sees a dog running out with a camera in his mouth and a rat on its back. It's weird because he was a duck when he went in there, and now he's a rat. Yeah, and then we get the opening. Okay, this show has one of the best theme songs I remember growing up. One of the best theme songs. In my top 10 favorite theme songs of the 90s, maybe even of all time. For some reason, when they got to season 2, they decided, hey, let's change it up. And just use the instrumental version over Sean Ashmore as Jake narrating stuff in the opening. My name is Jake. My friends and I were normal, blah, 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 that sort of thing, ending with, and now I'm an Animorph, which is problematic because they never actually say that in the show. They never say Animorph, they never call themselves that, nothing. They're known as Andalite Bandits by the Yeerks, but they're never, So episode 1's premise is, or the first part's premise is, Cassie, there's a dance going to be at the school, and Cassie wants everyone to go together because her and Jake like each other, and of course, Rachel and Tobias like each other, and so they kind of want to go together so that Cassie and Jake can kind of be together. So she's trying to set it up, and Jake's a little nervous, and Tobias wants to go with Rachel, of course, and but then Cassie is an environmentalist. She's an environmentalist, so she's gonna stand up for the animals, and so she ends up going to a rally for this cosmetics place that. Okay, I was on the toilet during this part, but I think I get the gist of it. Well, I heard anyway. But I could just put it on my phone, I guess, but I didn't. Happens when you eat the spicy food for lunch. But anyway, so she's at this environmentalist rally with Jake, who's in some kind of animal morph and in a cage. I think he's a monkey. If I'm okay, I think he's a monkey. Or, yeah, a monkey. I think he's a monkey. And so he's stuck in there. Well, she's trying to get him out. And so Marco and Rachel morph into a lion for Rachel and a dog for Marco, and they storm through and kind of cause chaos. Meanwhile, Vista 3 is back. There's a new morph in that of Martin Tessmacher, the owner proprietor of this TV studio. And I thought it was interesting. He sends the real Martin Tessmacher to be put in a cage somewhere in confinement, which is kind of weird. Because kids show they're not going to kill him off, but you know, is that where the real Victor Trent is? Who knows? And it's just assumed that they killed him, you know. But doesn't make sense, I guess, to kill him. So we set that up because that's more explained in the second episode. That's what that plot is. But he's Martin Tessmacher in charge of the studio now, and that stuff. The thing is, they explain that Martin Tessmacher has been missing for quite a few days now, or a week or so, and then he's just showing up in the studio, and no one's like, "Hey, you were gone for a while." It's just done. By the end of episode 1 sees Marco as a dog going to an opening in the woods and turning back into a human. Fortunately, he is seen by Howard, a schoolmate of theirs who we'd never seen before till now. And I remember when I saw this, I thought they were going to do the David arc. I thought this was David. If you don't know, David in the books was someone who found the cube that gives them their powers. And it was a part of the team, sort of, but it turns out he was working secretly for the Yerks and kind of betrayed them, so to speak, from what I can remember. And he's exactly what I pictured. You know, David to look like kind of geeky looking, short type person, like what I pictured. Although, you know, I don't know if they ever had a picture of him, but the actors that they have portray the characters are very different to what's in the book. Like, I always thought that maybe Tobias was the youngest, but he's actually played by the oldest actor. Christopher Ralph was 21 at this time, so he was the oldest. And who was it? I think Nadia Cassie was the young. No, Brooke Nevin was the youngest. She was 16 when the show started, so she was like 17, 18 here. So, yeah. But, yeah, so they kind of, you know, casting. Great casting, by the way. I think they all do a great job. I know they're supposed to be younger in the books, like maybe freshmen, but these actors are great. I couldn't picture, like, when I read the books and I read one with Marco, I'm not picturing this Marco. I'm picturing Boris Cabrera. Same thing for Tobias and Jake and all of them. I'm picturing the actors, you know. Kind of like when you read a comic book. like Spider-Man. Like, if you're in the early 2000s, you're a Spider-Man comic book, you're picturing Tobey Maguire. If it wasn't like 2012 to 2014, you're picturing Andrew Garfield. Now, probably Tom Holland, not the director. This sort of thing. Like, you read a Batman comic, it could be Michael Keaton or Christian Bale. You just had that. It was one of the earlier ones, probably Adam West. So, you gotta picture. Comic books are probably different to picture things, but books. It's the same thing with Goosebumps, I should point. When I read the books based on Goosebumps, I'm picturing the characters from the TV show. So, yeah, Silver Slappy looks different in there. Anyway, yes. So part 2 begins with this Howard guy. He has a tape, and he's gonna show it to, what was it, America's Weirdest Videos or something. Even though they filmed this in Canada, you can tell some of the actors, they say sorry a lot. This takes place in America, I guess. And he's going to sell it to this thing for like $10,000 or $10 million, whatever it was. And so he shows Rachel, and Rachel figures out it's Marco. And is like, that's why you're a rat or a duck. This is what Jake says, because that. But I'm sitting there going, and it wouldn't matter if you turn. Well, he's like, nobody pays attention to a rat or a duck. But true. But also Marco should have checked his surroundings before he morphed back. But, the whole thing. So, Rachel and Jake sneak into the TV studio to steal the tape, and they stumble upon a plan by the Yeerks, the most convoluted plan to infest humans with the Yeerks that I've ever seen. He has this Asian guy who helps run the studio, I guess, watch this horrible sitcom, get some whatever, and he's watching, he flashes. Now, Jake comments on the show and says that it's bad, so he can clearly see it. But when the flashes start, he's not hypnotized. The only hypnotized is this guy, maybe because he's right in front of the TV. Hypnotizes him while he's hypnotized. Visser 3 takes a Yeerk, puts it in his ear. We never see him actually put it in his ear, but you kind of see the camera go like this, that goes like this, and then it cuts, and he's just infested. And so, yeah, he's a Yeerk now, and so they're going to set up this to play so they can infest everyone within the viewing area. How the hell is that going to work? Are you gonna somehow figure out everyone? Like, not everyone watches this same channel. How are you gonna send people to all these people's controllers, to all these people's houses to infest them? It makes no sense. I think if maybe it should have been a movie. Like, oh, we're showing this new movie in a theater, and all the people in that theater are going to get infested when they're hypnotized. That would make more sense than something people are going to watch at home. How the hell is that going to work? How are you going to know who's watching it at what time? It makes no sense. It makes no fucking sense. But, yeah. Meanwhile, Axe is acting rather strange. So Marco and Cassie follow him, and if they find out he's rebuilding his spaceship to get back to his own planet. I don't know why. Like, it's just a side plot, I guess, but like, his home planet is under siege from the Yeerks. Why do you want to go back there right now? He should be trying to save Earth from having the same problems, you know what I mean? But, yeah, and this causes a citywide blackout. And I never get how citywide blackouts don't affect phones in TV shows, because citywide blackout happens, and then Howard, whatever, is on the phone. I'm like, no, there's a citywide blackout. There's no power. You can't be talking on the phone. How does that? I've seen it so many times in TV shows. Oh, it's a citywide blackout, and the guy's on a phone. On a regular phone, not cell phone, This is 1999. We didn't have. They had some cell phones, but there's an episode. There's an episode centered around Yerkes being inside the new, like, early cell phones. But he has a regular phone, a landline, and he's talking on it. And how? No power. So what I've neglected to talk about is something that comes around in part 3. So it starts in episode 1 with Tobias. He has the disc. The disc is something that was given to him by Elfangor, that's their Endlight friend, in the first episode. And they keep losing it and finding it and losing it, finding it. And so they have the disc, but they don't have the thing that it came in to play it or whatever. They couldn't figure out how to get to work anyway. And so he sees flyers with the same bird symbols on it and has been following these people. This leads to Sean Roberts' cameo, Wesker from the Resident Evil movies, and he was Dean on Degrassi, and he's been in other things. He was in Land of the Dead and Survival of the Dead, and somehow, or Land of the Dead and Diary of the Dead, and not as the same character. Although if Diary of the Dead was at the beginning of the outbreak, he could be the same character, but they have different names. They could change. I don't know. But he's in this with another African Canadian actor that I've seen before, but I don't know where. And a couple other ones. And they get this working. And this is where we get the explanation, only to Tobias, that Elfangor is his father, and that he is half human, half Andalite, which was in the books, and is here. Elfangor came to Earth. He fell in love with an Earth woman, which was Tobias' mother. They had Tobias, but he was... I don't know particularly, but I think maybe he was half human. He's half human or full human. He stayed in human form. He had a human morph and stayed in human form. Has 2 hours, maybe? I don't know. Maybe he couldn't control it. I don't know. But, yeah, and so that's the whole premise of trying to contact him and why he gave him the disc, trying to tell him. Yeah, and he keeps this to himself. Well, this is the last episode, but he keeps this to himself. Like, at the end of the episode, when they all come back together, he's kept this to himself. So in this episode, he meet with these people. He's trying not to, because he's not fully trusting. You're not supposed to trust anyone. So they're like, they mention Yerk. He's like, what's a Yerk? He's like, hey, you can trust us. We used to be controllers, but not anymore. We got out. Which, how did that happen? It said once you're controlled, you're in. I guess some people can get out. They had a whole thing about oatmeal in one episode, which is actually in this book right here. Well, oatmeal, a certain brand of oatmeal, being able to stop the effects of the controlling. So, yeah. Big negative, I just realized. Tom, not in this episode. Who's Tom? That is Jake's brother. He's not in this episode. He's like second or third in command under Visser 3. And he's not in this. Mr. Chapman's here. The principal is also a controller, but not or a teacher, whatever. Principal, teacher, whatever. I think he's a teacher. Principal. His daughter's not there. And the fact that she's friends with Rachel, but anyway. Also, the school dance. They start to kind of block off certain parts of the school, so Marco morphs into a lizard and finds out that actually there's a Yerk pool under the dance floor, and at 9 o'clock, they're going to open the dance floor, and everyone's going to fall into the Yerk pool and get infested, which, this is a better plan than the TV show. I'm just saying, they fall into a Yerk pool. It's happened before with Jake. In a 2-part episode, Jake falls into a Yerk pool while trying to escape this thing, and he becomes a controller. It's actually a pretty good episode, but yeah, so this is a better plan than the TV show thing. Yeah, well, there's a couple through lines to this thing. Like, the dance is looming, that's a thing. And Tobias trying to figure out what's going on with the symbols and the birds and stuff. There's, like, generally different plots. Like, part 1 has the whole animal rights thing. Part 2 is trying to get the videotape and stopping the Yerks from doing the videotape thing, and this one is about the dance and stuff, and yeah, and mostly about Tobias, I guess. But yeah, so Cassie turns into a skunk, or is it Rachel? Rachel turns into a skunk. Everyone leaves, and they say that everyone goes back to the mall, and they have their dance there because Ash really wants to dance. And so Tobias shows up because he wasn't going to go to the dance because he was busy with this whole bird thing. But then he goes to the dance, and he dances with Rachel and Jake wearing Cassie's grandfather's suit, by the way, dancing with Cassie. And then Marco and Axe dance together. Progressive in 1999. They're not actually a gay couple, but he's like they do the thing where they go to dance and Axe looks at him and he's like, don't even think about it. Okay, but I lead. You know, Marco's funny. He's like, man, that's barbed wire, also. But yeah, he's like, all right, but I lead. All right, but I get to lead or something like that. It is funny. Yeah, and he's like, and Tobias narrates the ending saying, hey, we will win. And yeah, basically. So yeah, that was the finale. It's not a big conclusion as it was just canceled after this. I don't even know if this was intended to be the finale because reading up on things, like when I was younger looking up stuff on the internet, there were 2 episodes that aired after this. It was like with Drake and Josh. But now you look it up and even the air date suggests this aired after those other ones. So it's very confusing. But I don't know. But yeah. This is fine. It kind of reminded me of the Arrowverse crossovers where each episode had their own little plot. There was one through line, like the dance or Tobias's quest. Like the dance was talked about in each episode, and Tobias was on its quest in each episode. But they each had their own little mini plots to kind of keep going. But it was fine. It was fun. And it was fun to go back and watch Animorphs. And yes, I don't like the second season opening because it has the instrumental version of the song and and the whole dialogue thing always pisses me off. But yeah, it's fun to go back and watch this. So, what are your thoughts on Animorphs series finale changes? No comments. Let me sure like, share, subscribe. Thanks for watching. I've been Scotty. I think I'm gonna put it in quotes. Animorphs series finale, just so people aren't confused on what it is. But next up though, we are going back to Cousin Skeeter. That's interesting. I think I've seen this in years, like since the first time. I used to record everything on videotape, but I don't remember how long ago I've watched this, but we shall see. So until then, thanks for watching. I'm Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.